And measurement of distance. There was a general discussions among the children in Paheli and Bojo class about the place they had visited during the summer vacation. Someone had gone to their native village by train, then a bus, and someone had gone to their native village by train, then a bus, and finally a bull cart. One student had traveled by an aeroplane, another spent many days of his holidays going on fishing trips in his uncle's boat. The teacher then asked them to write newspaper articles that mentioned about small wheeled vehicles that moved on the soil of Mars and conducted experiments. These vehicles were taken by spacecraft all the way to Mars. Meanwhile, Paheli had been reading stories about ancient India and wanted to know how people travel from one place to another in either times, story or transport. Long ago, people did not have any means of transport. They used to move only on foot and carry goods on their back. Later on, they began to use animals for transportations. For transportations through water routes, boats were used from ancient time. To begin with, boats were simple logos of wood in which a hollow cavities could be made. Later, people learned to put together different pieces of wood and give shapes to the boats. These shapes limited the shape of animals living in water. Recalls our discussions of his streamlined shape of fish in chapter 5 and 6. Inventions of the wheel made a great change in modes of transport. The design of wheel was improved over thousands of years. Animals were used to pull cart that moved on wheels. Until the beginning of the 19th century, people still depended on animal boats and ships to transport them from place to place. The inventions of steam engine led to the development of new means of transport. Rail roads were made for steam engine driven carriages and wagons. Later came automobiles such as a motor car, trucks, and buses. Motorized boats and ships were used in means of transport on water. The early years of 19th saw the development of aeroplanes. These were later improved to carry passengers and goods. Electric trains, monorail, supersonic aeroplane, and spacecraft are some of the century's contributions of 20th centuries. Figure 7.1 shows some of the different modes of transport. Place them in the correct order from the earliest modes of transport to the most recent. Are there any of the early modes of transport that are not in use today? How wide is this disk? How did people know how far they have traveled? How will you now whatever you can walk all the way to your schools, or whether you will need to take a bus or a risk to reach your school? When you need to purchase something, it is possible for you walk to the market. How will you know the answer to these questions? It is often important to know how far a place is so that we can have an idea how we are going to reach that place. Walk, take a bus or train, a ship, an aeroplane, or even a spacecraft. Sometimes there are objects whose length or width we need to know. In Paheli and Bujo classroom, there are large desks which are to be shared by two students. Paheli and Bujo share one desk out frequently and are objecting that the other is using a larger share of the desk. On the teacher's suggestions, they decide to measure the length of the desk, makes a mark exactly in the middle of it, and draw a line to separate the two halves of the desk. Both Paheli and Buju are very fond of playing Gil Danda with their friends. Buju brought a set of Gilli and Danda with him. Here is how they try to measure the length of desk using the Danda and the Gil. The desk seems to be having a length equal to Danda length and two length of the gillies. Drawing a line in the middle of the desk, leave each them happy with a half of them desk equal to Danda had a gilly in length. After a few days, the marked line get whipped out. Buju now has a new set of gilly and Danda as he lost his old one. Here is how to the length of the desk seems to a measures using the gilly and Danda ponte. Measuring the length of desk with gilly and Danda. Measuring the length of desk with a different set of gilly and Danda. Before such a standard scales were made and has been trying to follow different method of measuring distance. There are so many occasions when we come across a need to measure length and distance. The tailors need to measure the length of the cloth to know if it is enough to stitch a kurta. A carpenter needs to measure the height and width of cupboard to know how much wood he would need to make it stood. The farmer needs to know the length and breadth of the area of his land to know how much seed he can sow and how much water would be needed for his crop. Suppose you are asked how tall you are. You want to tell the length of a straight line from the top of your head to the heel of your feet. How long is this room? How wide is this desk? How far is from Delhi to Lucknow? How far away is the moon from the earth? All these questions have one thing in common. They all concern distance between two places. The two places may be close enough like the two ends of the tables, or they may be far apart like Jammu and Kanyakumari. Let us do a few measurements to see what exactly we needed to do when we measure distance or length. Some measurement. Activity 1. Work in groups and each of you do this activity one by one using your foot as a unit of length. Measures the length and the breadth of the classroom. It is possible that while measuring these you may find some part remaining to be measured as it is smaller than your foot. Use a string to measure the length of a part of your foot as you did before. Record your observation. Table 7.1. Measuring length and breadth of classroom. Work in groups of and each of these use a hand span as a unit to measure the width of the table or desk in the classroom. Here too you may find that you need string length equal to your hand span and then fractions of this string length to make the measure and record all observations. Table 7.8. We see that the measurement means the comparisons of the unknown quantities with some quantity. This now fixed quantity is called a unit. The result of measurement is expressed in two parts. One part is a number, the other part is a unit of measurement. For example, if activity 1, the length of this room is found to be 12 length of your foot, then 12 is a number and foot length is the unit selected for the measurement. Now study all the measurement recorded in table 7.1 and 7.2 are all the measurements for the room using every day's foot equals our everyday measurement by the hand span of the widths of the table equals. Perhaps the result could be different as the length of your hand span and that of your friends may not be same. Similarly, the length of the foot may be the slightly different for all the students. Therefore, when you tell your measurement using your hand span or length of foot as a unit to other, they will be not be able to understand how big the actual length is unless they know the length of your hand span of foot. We see therefore that some standards unit of measurement are needed that do not change for person to person. A standard unit of measurement. In ancient time, the length of a foot, the width of fingers, and the distance of steps were commonly used a different unit of measurements.